This is an overview to lesson 1.4 of year 2 with Good Project Lesson Plans. In this lesson, we're going to focus on excellence, the E of excellence, of the 3 E's of good work. So the lesson goal is to be able to identify all 3 E's of good work and really to be able to think about some of the nuances of excellence and the ways in which we can balance that and find balance in our lives. Here are the assessment pieces to this particular lesson. CASEL alignments. The portfolio documentation involves a handout, an exit ticket, and then there's an optional activity, which really is terrific if your students can find time for it, about interviewing a worker. I'll get to that in a moment. And then some optional some resources, some of which are optional and others which are embedded as part of the lesson. The prerequisite is the previous lesson. Here is an optional refresher reminding your students that last week or last class we reviewed engagement and values. Today we're going to start with a refresher of all 3 E's and then take a closer look at excellence. And then we'll move on to a debate. So begin with a dilemma discussion, 20 minutes for this, and there will be initial review of the 3 E's, and then we offer 2 different dilemmas. You could choose whichever feels most resonant for your students. They're both about students who are trying to balance a number of responsibilities. Just a heads up, the second one is about a student who is dealing with a lot of stress. There's a lot of pressure on this student, so we want to let you know that it will definitely touch on some mental health challenges. So review the dilemma closely beforehand before you decide whether or not it would be appropriate for your students. Both of these dilemmas involve students who are trying to balance a number of responsibilities and pushing forward in terms of excellence, and trying to decide how much pressure is too much, for example. Some suggested discussion questions for your students. What do you think the main character should do? How do we know when our work is excellent? Who gets to decide what's excellent? And then what are some of the variables that we consider with regards to excellence? Here are some examples of potential variables. What stage of life, what levels of excellence can a younger person versus an adult achieve? What are the consequences of not achieving a goal of excellence? What are the differences between various different professions? What is excellent to a doctor, for example, versus excellent to an educator, versus excellence to a politician? Any number of different roles, and kind of thinking about those different qualities. And then also it's good to point out to your students that the values that matter to you might influence what excellence means to you. So tying it back to that value sort and how all of these elements relate to one another. And then we allow 20 minutes for this engagement and excellence activity. It's a debate. We hope that that is enjoyable for your students. Hopefully it won't become too competitive, or if they love being competitive, hopefully that will, get them excited. Whatever, again, your students best. So dividing the class into groups of 4, again, thinking about the particular numbers that you have and what works best. And here are the 2 different points. You must be engaged in or enjoy and find meaning in your work to be able to do it well, or whether you're engaged in your work has absolutely nothing to do with how well you do it. Give them 5 minutes to come up with an argument to support their position, and then they will have time to present those arguments and respond. So there are a few different ways that you could do this activity. We offer the suggestions here, and then there are some suggestions from educators who have done the activity to changing it up. So they gave them examples. Here are some ways to change up the debate. Another educator used debate corners, so you can read through these options and see what might work best for you and your students. And then the exit ticket involves asking the students to reflect what aspects of your life do you strive for excellence? In what aspects of your life do you strive for excellence? Maybe they're an athlete, maybe they're involved in the arts, maybe they're involved deeply in a job outside of school. And how are the different ways that they strive for excellence? How do they change depending on what the activity is? How are they striving for excellence in a science classroom versus on the sports field or on the stage, for example? Another possible enrichment is an activity of interviewing a worker. A lot of fun, and students could think about potentially something that they might be thinking about for a career, and how, and maybe find someone who is involved in that work, and interview them. So just some suggestions for how to take it beyond the classroom.